Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is our last lesson under administrative law, and today I will be discussing fiscal autonomy. So as envisioned class in the Constitution, the fiscal autonomy enjoyed by the judiciary, the Civil Service Commission, the Commission on Audit, the Commission on Elections, and the Office of the Ombudsman contemplates a guarantee on full flexibility to allocate and utilize their resources with the wisdom and dispatch that their needs require. So it recognizes the power and authority to levy, assess, and collect fees, including fixing rates of compensation not exceeding the highest rates authorized by law for compensation, and pay plans of the government, and allocate and disburse such sums as may be provided by law or prescribed by them in the course of the discharge of their functions. In simple words, class, fiscal autonomy entails freedom from outside control and limitations other than those provided by law. So it is the freedom to allocate and utilize funds granted by law in accordance with law and pursuant to the wisdom and dispatch it needs as may be required from time to time. Fiscal autonomy, class, in other words, means freedom from outside control. If, for example, the Supreme Court says that it needs 100 typewriters, but the DBM ruled out that Supreme Court must only be provided with 10 typewriters and sends its recommendation to the Congress without even informing the Supreme Court, the autonomy given by the Constitution becomes an empty and illusory platitude. So the judiciary, class, the Constitutional Commission, and the Ombudsman must have its independence in the discharge of their constitutional duties. So the imposition and restrictions and constraints on the manner the independent constitutional offices allocate and utilize the funds appropriated for their operations is anathema to fiscal autonomy and violate not only of the express mandate of the Constitution, but especially as regards the Supreme Court of the independence and separation of powers upon which the entire fabric of our constitutional system is based. So now, in the interest of comity and cooperation, the Supreme Court and other constitutional commission, including the Ombudsman, have so far limited their objections only to constant reminders because of the fiscal autonomy. Additionally, the Administrative Code provides that constitutional commissions are the Civil Service Commission, the Commission on Election, and the Commission on Audit shall be independent. And part of this independence, class, is Section 26, which is fiscal autonomy. So the constitutional commissions shall enjoy fiscal autonomy. The approved annual appropriations shall be automatically and regularly released. One of the cases, class, that thoroughly discussed fiscal autonomy is the Mandanas versus Ochoa case, GR number 199802, July 3, 2018. So in this case, class, Mandanas and Company alleged certain collections of the National Internal Revenue taxes by the Bureau of Customs, which are specifically the excise taxes, the value-added taxes, and documentary stamp taxes, have not been included in the base amounts for the computation of the IRA. They allege, class, that such taxes, because they are collected by the Bureau of Customs, should form part of the base from which the IRA should be computed because they constituted the NIRTs. So consequently, the release of an additional amount to the LGUs as per IRA for the fiscal year 2012 should be ordered, and that the same reason the LGU should also be released from their unpaid IRA for fiscal year 1992 to 2011. And so let us first discuss the first issue. If the exclusion of certain national taxes from the base amount for the computation of the just share of the LGUs in the national taxes constitutional, of course the answer is no. The exclusion of certain national taxes from the base amount for the computation of the just share of the LGUs in the national taxes is unconstitutional for being contrary to the provisions of Section 6, Article 10 of the 1987 Constitution. This article, class, textually commands the allocation of the LGUs of a just share in the national taxes. Additionally, Section 284 of the Local Government Code provides that local government units shall have a share in the national internal revenue taxes based on the collection of the third fiscal year preceding the current fiscal year as 30% on the first year of the effectivity of the code, 35% on the second, and 40% on the Third, this case class also discusses municipal corporations and their relationship with the Congress. So municipal corporations are now commonly known as local governments, and they are the bodies politic established by law partly as agencies of the state to assist in the civil governance of the country. And their chief purpose has been to regulate and administer the local and internal affairs of the cities, municipalities, and districts. The decentralization in the Philippines are categorized into four. We have political decentralization or devolution. We have administrative decentralization or deconcentration. We have fiscal decentralization and policy or decision-making decentralization. So let us focus more on fiscal decentralization. Fiscal decentralization class means that the local government units have the power to create their own sources of revenue in addition to their just share in the national taxes released by the national government. So it includes the power to allocate their resources in accordance with their own priorities, and it thus extends to the preparation of their budgets so that the local officials have to work within their constraints of their budgets. The budgets are not formulated at the national level and imposed on local governments without regard as to whether or not they are relevant to the local needs and resources. Hence, the necessity of a balancing of viewpoints and the harmonization of proposals from both local and national officials, who in any case are partners in the attainment of national goals, is recognized and addressed. So, fiscal decentralization emanates from a specific constitutional mandate that is expressed in several provisions of Article 10 of the Local Government Code, the 1987 Constitution, specifically Section 5, Section 6, and Section 7. So the constitutional authority extended to each and every local government unit to create its own sources of income and revenue has been formalized from Section 128 to Section 133 of the Local Government Code. So to implement the LGU's entitlement to the just share in the national taxes, Congress has enacted Section 284 to Section 288 of the Local Government Code. Congress has further enacted Section 289 to Section 294 of the Local Government Code to define the share of the LGUs in the national wealth. So indeed, the requirement for the automatic release of the LGUs of their just share in the national taxes is but a consequence of the constitutional mandate for fiscal decentralization. However, class, please be mindful that fiscal decentralization doesn't signify the absolute freedom of the LGUs to create their own sources of revenue and to spend their revenues unrestrictedly or upon their individual whims and caprices. So Congress has subjected the LGU's power to tax to the guidelines set in Section 130 of the Local Government Code and to the limitations stated in Section 133 of the same code. The concept of local fiscal autonomy does not exclude any power of intervention by the national government. The concept of local fiscal autonomy does not exclude any manner of intervention by the national government in the form of supervision, if only to ensure that the local programs, fiscal and otherwise, are consistent with the national goals. So that ends our discussion under fiscal autonomy. Thank you and have a great day.